everyone, and welcome to tonight's all partner training session, which is on the environment. Sorry, people are still joining, so I'm just going to be letting people in at the same time. So I have done a PowerPoint presentation for you guys actually on this, which is unusual for a product session. So I'm going to share my screen and talk you through why the theme environment, where we think you can sell these books. And then I've got some videos from some of our editors talking you through the books. I've got some to talk you through myself as well. So I will share my screen. Okay, so as usual, this is in so why the environment? So I think the environment is a good theme to talk on initially. You will notice, I think, an environmental trend in so many of Usborne's books. So I'm just showing you a really narrow selection of them. But I would say it kind of threads its way through so many of our books, lots of the new books coming up. Have elements of the environment in them. So we've got a new series coming up about like what people do for work. So what do scientists do, I think, is the first one. And that's got like an environmental twist to it as well, of like scientists that protect the environment. You'll see the environment feature in some of our fiction, which I am going to talk you through later. You'll see it in like books for really tiny children as well. And it's just kind of every book. Not every book, that's a massive exaggeration. A large proportion of our books have an environmental theme to them, and I think you can argue a lot of them are focused on the environment. The national curriculum in the UK, at least, but I would presume globally, has an environmental theme to it. It's in the early years curriculum. Things like forest schools are heavily kind of involved with our environment and the world we live in. Obviously, David Attenborough, God love him, is still going strong, touch wood. And he's obviously made kind of the world around us massively, like a massive part of popular culture, particularly in the UK. And I think you can't turn on the TV, it's primetime TV slots, all these programs about the environment. And a book that is not in this selection, but there's a series which is has the deep, like, kind of extreme planet series, which I think is going to be really popular because it ties into that kind of extreme planet, global warming, climate change, what's happening in the world around us. Greta Thunberg is obviously very influential, particularly among the younger generations. So I think children now are much more aware of the environment than I was. Maybe I was just oblivious as a child, but I think it wasn't a conversation that I remember in the 90s and 2000s that people were talking about saving the planet. And I think it's much more at the forefront of everyone's minds. Parents are more interested in buying books for their children about saving the planet, and kids are more interested in reading them and learning more about the world around them. The nice thing I think about Usborne's books is they focus on what we can do to make a difference. And all of them have kind of small things that people can do to make a difference to the world around them, which I think is nice so people feel a bit less guilty, knowing that there are small things that every single person can do to make a difference. So what are your sales opportunities for books about the environment? So you should have a wave of, or that maybe they're coming. So the environment is your key theme for April, which we are almost entering into. So you will have a wave of lovely images that you can use to promote these books. I have, those of you that don't know me, I have two children. They are 4 and 1. So I am not too far out of the baby toddler groups. If anyone's experienced baby sensory, that was quite the experience I found. Not something I personally could deliver, but they go wild for the themes and they really commit to it. I had a French week theme that I think was slightly controversial, but they love a theme. So I think a baby toddler group are bound to be doing a theme at some point about animals. Under the Sea, I think, is a classic. Nature, that you can then take your books along to. Parents are feeling like they want to do something good for their children, especially when they're keen, they've just had the baby, maybe it's their first and they're even more keen, and they want to buy something to make them feel like they're influencing their child in wanting to save the planet and knowing more about our world. Schools, I think, is your most obvious one. Like, a lot of these books are staples that should be in any library or classroom. The same thing applies to nurseries as well. How the nursery should be full. And actually, my child's nursery that I was just in had a lot of Usborne books in there. And I don't know if any of you are working with Freshfields Nursery in Stratford upon Avon, but there are loads of Usborne books, so kudos to you if it's you. But they are learning about the world around them, and they like to base that in books, so it's a good way of getting books into nurseries. The other thought I had was about local, like, youth groups, like Scouts, guides that will do different badges. Are they doing one that's to do with the environment? Obviously they are kind of more outdoorsy, those groups, so do they want books to go alongside the work they're doing? Lots of people have done community book pledges to fund mental health packs for schools, but I wonder if anyone has ever tried doing a community book pledge to fund books about the environment. Most companies now have to like display their environmental credentials and show that they are doing something to, like, save the planet in whatever way that might be. So I wonder whether it's worth looking at local organisations. Are there any that are particularly focused on the environment, or do they need to tick a box to show that they are focusing on the environment? That could be a community book pledge to sponsor a local school to have some books on the environment. So I think outside the box, and I do feel like sponsoring an environment pack would definitely be good for a company's reputation. Home learning, obviously, lots of children are taught at home. Great staple books for them to have, or just for, I know lots of you talk about how your children come home from school, they're infused with learning about a topic, and you've always got a book that matches that topic. So if they're learning about this at school, do parent groups know that you've got books that can enhance and keep that interest going outside of school? A key date for your diaries is the 5th of June, which is World Environment Day. So it would be good in advance of that to share these books in advance of celebrating that day and see who wants to learn more about the world around them. So the one thing that isn't in your focus books, but I couldn't help but throw in, was fiction, because so many of our books have an environmental strand to them. And I think it was Mal Mitchell that said that parents seem to prefer buying their children fiction. So if you have someone that wants to buy their child fiction in order for them to learn about the environment, or maybe they have a child that was like me, that I'm now very into a fact book since working for Usborne, but if you'd given me a fact book as a child, I probably wouldn't have been that interested in it. I'd have rather learnt it about a pretend character than the real world. So, Trials. If you are not familiar with this series, you should read it, like, personally, because it's incredible. It's aimed at 12+ readers. It's a dystopian world about what happens when kind of humans trash the world they live in. Do they have the right to claim a new world as their own when they've ruined the world they live in? There's so many environmental themes to this book, and is amazing for older readers. Park Lights is like beautifully set about the natural world and humans' kind of negative impact on the natural world, and how the natural world is actually going to save and like be a home for these children. Alex Neptune, again, the natural world is being kind of trashed by humans, and the dragon is like going against that, and then Alex and his friends are trying to save the dragon and the world around them. I mean, essentially humans don't come across well in any of these books. The Great Dodo Comeback, hilarious, aimed at much younger readers. Again, like mankind's impact on the natural world. and like they tried to de-extinct the dodo and like change the natural world. Turtle Boy obviously features turtles and their natural environment and how that is being damaged by humans again. These are great books, and it's not all doom and gloom. Billy and the Monsters Go Green, I have to say I haven't actually read this book, but I think the clue is in the title, that is very much centered on the environment. This one I haven't read, and neither will any of you because it hasn't come out yet. But Anisha is going environmental as well and cleaning up the beach. So everyone's having a go at saving the planet. But I do think it is worth bearing in mind that the environment is not just covered in non-fiction and the obvious books, and there will be so many more books in this as well. And you can probably, again, twist a lot of the books. A really lovely one about the environment was The Wild Folk, but I noticed that it's not in stock. And I didn't want to get slapped down by Grant for promoting a book that he doesn't currently have. So yeah, that's a lovely one if you have it in your stock. So that is the end of my the PowerPoint. That was just quite brief really about this. So I now have some books to, sorry, I'm still trying to let people in, and clearly I'm not very good at multitasking. So I have now got some books to show you to do with the environment. I've also got some editor videos about this. I'm going to have to try and change this to speaker view so that people watching this back get the treat of my face in large. So I am going to talk to you about a few books and show you some videos of the editors talking about the series. So the first one I have to show you is Peep Inside a Recycling Truck. And I have to say, this book is excellent. I underestimated this book, really. It takes you through the journey of recycling. So they start off with the recycling bins, and then you literally look inside to see what's happening in the recycling truck. It's explained really simply. They go to a sorting factory, and then it shows you, I mean, I found this more interesting than potentially I should have done, but it shows you how they sort the recycling. And I feel like small kids are going to be absolutely fascinated by this. So it goes through all the different stages of how they separate the recycling. I mean, it should be obvious about the old magnet, but I was like, well, that's an ingenious way of getting all the tin cans out. You've got like the plastic that's like blown into different bins. And then you've got like, what does your recycling turn into? So like plastic bottles becoming fleeces, paper cans turning into toilet rolls. It's obviously short but sweet because it's aimed at really small children. It's very simple and easy to understand. But I think this would be amazing for nurseries to have at their disposal. I've just seen the comment about the bin men. So many kids are obsessed with the bin men, aren't they? My daughter has not been obsessed with bin men, but we'll see if my son is. But I think, yeah, it's just like, I think it's a really great book, and I quite like that it's non-fiction, but it does tell the story of what happens to your recycling. So I thoroughly recommend this one, and I do think it is a staple for nurseries. It's $7.99, so it's a nice price, lots of flaps to lift, and I think it's a really good addition to this series. Okay, so lots of recycling truck fans in the audience here. So I'm now going to show you a video about a series where there are quite a lot of books in the same series. So I'll share my screen. I'll remember to share sound as well. So I'll just make this one. Oh no. Which is the Can We Really Help the series. So hopefully that gives you a flavour of this series. So this series is the Can We Really Help the series. It's aimed at younger children. So there are dolphins, trees. Oh, sorry, I said dolphins, but I was holding up polar bears. Dolphins, which you've just seen the video for. And there's also bees in this series as well. I don't know whether some of these videos are going to be available to you in the pack you'll be getting to promote books on the environment. I will check that one. I don't see why you can't have those videos, so I will check. So I think these books are brilliant because they have so many features in them. So this one starts off with a nice little letter addressed to the children, which again, I think would be really sweet. Obviously, a parent reading to a child or a teacher reading to their class. And they basically want to recruit the children to help them. Obviously, it's beautiful, full colour illustrations. It's hardback, so it's really nice and hard wearing. And it tells the story. I like this one because it's got little kind of like cut out details on the pages. So they give all the key information about what's happening to their world and the environment around them, but in a really friendly story format. This one goes on about fossil fuels, greenhouse gases. There are so many things to learn about them, and there's little kind of cut out details as well in the pages. They feel a bit more interactive. It's really contextualizing everything, so kind of explains clearly the reasons behind everything, what they can do to come up with solutions to change and save the planet. And then at the end of the book, so it's got loads, and the children kind of work with the polar bears to work out what can they do to save the planet. So they've got kind of good news about real change. So it's talking about what's actually happening in the world, like countries promising to stop using coal for energy, countries banning fossil fuel vehicles, LED light bulbs. And they talk about the careers that children might have when they're older. So this one talks about wanting to be a wildlife expert and learn about polar bears. This one wants to be an architect to design houses that run on clean energy. This one wants to be a politician to make laws to stop air pollution. So it's showing like all the different ways and all the different careers that you can do to help the planet. So I also like the fact you've got a glossary of terms at the back, which I think is really useful. It's got links to Usborne quick links for children to find out more, which I think is a good selling point to make sure you're using as well. I do think it's like, you know, when you watch a TV programme and then you end up Googling things about the TV programme. I always feel that's a sign of a good TV programme. And I think it's the same with quick links. I love the fact that kids have read a book and they're really interested in the topic and they really want to find out more, and then they can find out more. So it's just encouraging children to take their own interests and run with them and enjoy them. So yeah, I think this is a really fab series, and I do think it's worth pointing out I love a glossary, the additional glossary of terms at the back. And yeah, I think they'd be great to do with kids in a class. Really lovely talking points to look up with your own children at home. They are quite young. I think I'm not sure how high they would age up, but I think they're really, really lovely books. Oh, nice, Michelle. I am loving all the comments in the chat about these books. Please keep the comments in the chat coming. So that is the Can We Really Help series. Don't they look beautiful as a collection? I highly recommend having a look at those. The next video I will share is this one, which is Animals in Danger. So we didn't have this book in the office, so I don't have it to show you over screen. But it's a really, really lovely one. And I think the end page is really lovely and positive. I think sometimes it can make children feel quite sad knowing that so much is changing in the world around them and they can't necessarily do that much to help. But I think that was really nice and positive, showing about how they're increasing animal numbers by actively looking at endangered animals and working hard to save them. So the next book that I want to show you is this one, which is See Inside Why Plastic is a Problem. Usborne have a lot of plastic books, so I'd say you've got a lot to choose from. So it kind of gives you like the history of plastic, like where it comes from, why people started using it, and how like the use of it has really grown. And I think how kind of the use of it has been misinterpreted from what it was originally designed for. It talks about recycling and different types of plastic, and I'll be honest, I never knew what those different numbers meant on the bottles, and yeah, what you can do with it. It talks about like plastic waste and like what happens to it, and where it ends up, landfill sites, incinerators, recycling. It obviously has the kind of classic beach scene, which we've all seen, depressing shots of that in the real world. It does talk about good plastic and bad plastic, hidden plastic. I didn't realise there was plastic in toothpaste, which is a little bit concerning. And how we can solve the plastic problem. So again, I think a lot of Usborne books tend to follow this same structure, that they tell you about like the history, the origin, the problem, and then they give you some ideas of what the solution might be and what the kind of new technology is that's being discovered all the time. I love all the stuff about small actions leading to bigger actions and making a bigger difference. Talking about like kind of basic things that everyone can do to make a difference, like reusing, recycling, picking it up, and how everyone can do one small thing to make a difference. The See Inside series has lots and lots of different titles within the series, and a lot of them do have an environmental strand to it. I really love See Inside Oceans. Any of the animal ones would be good as well. So I think, again, this series is really good for cross-selling, that if your customers get into it, then they'll want more, or schools that like it and want to have lots in the same series in their library to look at. So that is See Inside Why Plastic is a Problem. I have got another video for you. I didn't realise the videos weren't the editors talking, because that's what I was told I was getting. So very sorry, you've just got me talking about the books, but they are lovely flick throughs. So I've just shown you See Inside Why Plastic is a Problem. So I'm going to move on now to our focus books. The first of which is this one, which my son stole. each month we are giving you a theme, but alongside the theme, there are a few books every month that I think deserve an extra special mention that don't fit within the theme. I mean, this is tenuous. It is about animals, so you could argue it fits within the environment. But this is coming out in April. My son has been a little bit heavy-handed with it. I can see the spine is bent. But it's a clever piece of technology whereby you slide it one way and it gives you one sound. You slide it the other way and it gives you the other sound. My son is 18 months. He thought this was excellent. And I think this is going to be a real hit with babies and toddlers. So you've got, I mean, they're really great sounds. There are loads more coming in this series. So I think it's going to be quite collectible, that parents will want more in the series. I think the next one coming out is Vroom. I think it's vehicle based, the next one. I think there are plans to do a farm based one. And I can't remember the other ones, but there are this series is going to keep growing. So they are planning to do a lot more of this. I think we are the only publisher that is using this technology currently. I mean, I'm sure another publisher will no doubt decide that they're going to use it after seeing what we've done. But I think they will only be able to buy this type of book from Usborne. They're £12.99. So they're not the cheapest, but it's a really brilliant present. I know you guys will do really well with this book. I think, again, it's going to be great for your baby and toddler groups, great for your stalls. And you obviously have the benefit that you can show this book in the flesh to your customers, or do a live and show them it online to really show them just how fun this is. But my 18-month-old recommends it. So really, you can't have a better recommendation than that of my child. But yes, it's a really fun book. I was supposed to be getting a nice project video of Alfie moving the sliders. What I got was him running around the house with the book, and that's not made the cut to promote this project. So his modelling career is not started yet. But yes, this series I'm really excited about, and I know you guys are going to do amazingly with it. So this next book, I distracted the office today because I just ended up reading loads of the facts from it, which is, I can see Michelle is on this Zoom, and I always think of Michelle when I have a science book. But it is See Inside Genes and DNA. And I don't know about the rest of you, but I am really interested in genes and DNA. And I find it really fascinating how they work. It's like both my children have blue eyes. I don't have blue eyes, my husband does, and my dad does. And I find it really interesting, like how it works and how like your children end up the way they do. So this is like an idiot's guide as well, hence why I understood it when it was talking about science. But it goes through what genes are, and you've got these, I was about to call them fun animal characters, but they're 100% not animal characters that we are seeing. Like this little one, Why Should I Care About Genes? And it talks about how genes have been shaping almost everything about you, and they're what make everyone look slightly different and make families often look similar. Where are your genes? So where are you finding them in your body? The kind of classic helix ladder that we're all familiar with. I'm probably going to be absolutely butchering the science in this as well. Then you've got, where do your genes come from? So they do like a reenactment of a family tree and how genes are expressed through the generations, which I think is really cool, using these kind of little animal characters. They also feature this, which I thought was nice, which was about how the cousin is adopted, so they don't actually share the same genetics, but they're still part of the same family. So this one also talks about environmental factors that impact how we are and how we develop. So again, it's kind of covering the full range. I do think this book would be quite good for year 7 to find out about genes as well. So I do think you could sell these to secondary schools, not just primary schools. obviously for personal use as well. Then it shows you how genes work, like the order that they come in, the code. Like, it's quite complex, but it is explained really well. Why we all look different. Now, this bit is the bit that really fascinated me. So it says, lift the flaps to find out how similar your genes are to each of these living things. So your genes are 99.9% the same as all other humans. It's just the last 0.1% of genes that make every human different. But we share 90% of our genes with a cat. We share 65% with a kid, 98% of our genes with a pig, 60% with a fruit fly, and this one was the most surprising of all. We share 60% of our genes with a banana, which I just found fascinating. And this is why I love Usborne books, because I think they're so great for adults as well, that adults can really, really enjoy. Like, I don't know how many of you have primary age children, but my friends that do say some of the things, the books that their kids get sent home with are terrible. And you've got the option of selling parents these amazing books that they're going to learn loads with. And you knew that, Nikki. Well, I was surprised. But you're selling these incredible books that parents are going to enjoy reading too, and going to enjoy learning about with their children. They talk about the scientists behind all of this and behind all of this research. Charles Darwin, Dolly the sheep, talking about what else genes can do, talking about like selective breeding as well. Treating illnesses, stopping illnesses, solving crimes. It's like, I mean, this book is just excellent. And then talking about the future of genetics. This one was interesting. Studies of twins show that as they get older, twins' DNA gets more and more different. Junk DNA. Junk is any DNA that isn't a gene, which was interesting. So yeah, like really, really interesting. Can we alter crops to survive as the climate changes? Like, so much amazing stuff in this book. So I feel like if you buy one book for personal use this year, I think it should be this one. And this may not make it back to the office. I will be reading this evening. So yes, See Inside Genes and DNA and Raw are not in the theme, but are definitely in the books that you should be enjoying in April. Oh, Kerry, I'm glad I've converted you. It's so good. You need to treat yourself. Marnie would love it anyway. So we actually, for once in our lives, have time. So what I thought we would do is do some breakout rooms. And I want you to talk about what your favourite environment book is. So it could be one you've discovered tonight. It could be another one you love. One of the other feature ones, which I realised didn't have a video for and I couldn't find it in the office, was 100 Things to Know About Saving the Planet. 100 Things to Know, amazing series if you're not familiar with it. So that was one of the other ones to talk about. So I am going to stop recording